Hello, friend, and welcome back to the Holistically Well podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kayla Borchers, and today I am joined by dietitian Lindsay. That is what she is known as on Instagram. But Lindsay Farmer is coming to us from California today, and we are talking all about postpartum nutrition and holistic recovery. Something near and dear to my own heart, as you know, I have my Holistically Well programs for preconception, pregnancy, and postpartum. And we've been focusing a lot on the show for the preconception and pregnancy buckets. But so many of you have been asking about postpartum. And this is something that whether you are currently pregnant or actively in your postpartum phase, you are going to learn so much from today's conversation of ways that you can actively replenish and support your body post-baby. So welcome, Lindsay.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk today.
Can you give me a little bit of background for your training and what brought you into this space?
Yeah, definitely. I kind of had a similar experience to you. I think when we have those personal health struggles, it really pushes us into the spaces that we land into. So I definitely struggled with my period in college, went back to seeing it now, it was the under eating, over exercising, kind of the classic things that happen. So went on birth control to help regulate things and then started having a lot of really crazy symptoms. My anxiety and depression increased, which was something I didn't really deal with before. I was having a lot of gut issues. And so I started digging really deep into, okay, could this be linked to what I'm taking? And it was an overwhelmingly yes, it could. So with that, I was able to transition, off birth control. And that really led me into just this whole world of preconception, prenatal, postpartum nutrition. So all my continuing education just kind of, went into that area. And it's so interesting to just see all that is going on basically in that world. So yeah, that's how I got started in that. And it's something I'm super passionate about and love.
Absolutely. And you are a dietitian, correct?
Yes, I'm a registered dietitian. Yes.
Perfect. So I think that's so important to point out because in the world of social media, there are so many different thoughts and opinions out there that are sometimes just that, thoughts and opinions, whereas you actually have that education to back it up. And I think that's really important to note.
It's definitely an interesting landscape right now with just like you said, so many thoughts and opinions out there. And, something that works for one person isn't something that we should be using for everyone. There really is a lot of research that we should be falling on to put it to everyone. And so, yeah.
So postpartum, there's so much talk about babies feeding, babies weight gain, babies sleep, and we go and we have a checkup with our pediatrician 2 days after delivery. And mom is not checked up on until 6 weeks. So what should a mom focus on in those initial days post-delivery? Let's talk about day 1. She's just given birth. What should she nourish herself with?
Yeah. Really, we want to be looking at protein. So when we look at wound healing post-birth, protein is going to be the building block for that, those amino acids. So protein, iron-rich foods, and minerals are what I am like, these are what we need in these days postpartum. Those minerals are really going to help our stress response. So things like sodium, potassium, magnesium, we want to make sure that our body feels safe postpartum because it's such a crazy time. And they're like the spark plugs for the body. Those can really help just calm the nervous system. Iron-rich foods, we experience blood loss in postpartum and we need to replenish that. So looking at things like meat, that's going to be our most bioavailable source. So, those slow cooked meats are my favorites. If we can get those crock pot meals, we're getting protein, we're getting our iron, we're getting collagen, fat, which is going to be, vitamin A for helping replenish blood loss, all of that. Those are the things that I would love moms to focus on.
Yes. And as a physical therapist, this is why I care about nutrition, because if we only focus on the physical aspect of healing, like breath work and reconnecting with your core and your deep core and scar tissue mobilization, if your body doesn't have the building blocks to heal, you're not going to heal optimally.
Yes, exactly. It's so powerful and it's something that's so overlooked in our society.
Mhm.
And there's so many reasons for why it could be overlooked. We have that like bounce back culture. And so moms are undernourishing themselves. We could look at the birth experience. And sometimes when we have a hard birth experience or it didn't go as planned, we're more likely to just kind of like, be reserved and not focus on ourselves. And you have that innate drive to take care of your baby. And so it's just, you get put on the back burner.
Right.
So the education and preparation go just such a long way.
Yeah. So, practically speaking, a mom has given birth and she's in a birth center or a hospital. She's not at home. Should she bring food with her?
I love that question.
What do you recommend?
Yeah. I think if you can, it's not going to hurt you. It's something that can be powerful, and or having things ready at home if you're close to a hospital that maybe your husband could run home and grab you something. That can be helpful too, because sometimes just in the chaos of leaving, it's like that's the last thing on your mind.
Yes.
But snacks like meat sticks are going to be great because it's like an easy protein source. Perfect bars, I really love. They're just a really balanced bar and it's easy to have on the go. RX bars are also good. They're we want that balance of protein, carbs, and fat in there, and those are good ones for that. So yes, if you can bring stuff with you, electrolytes, that would be amazing to be able to bring for your water. So yes, if you can, it's something to think about for sure.
Absolutely. So, my most recent childbirth, I brought bone broth powder because I knew I could get access to hot water there, but I didn't know about a microwave. So, I brought the bone broth powder from Perfect Supplements, and it was so nourishing and warm, and that was amazing. The bars you recommended, 100% agree. And if you have somebody coming to visit you, have them bring food, like you mentioned, from home, or pick it up from a good restaurant nearby. Maybe it's a good soup or something like that. Yeah, and sometimes the ease of the meals available at the hospital or the birth center are just like, okay, we're gonna start with that, and then we get home, and as you mentioned, have things prepared.
Yes. And I think sometimes we feel like we can't bring stuff into like those hospital settings, just because if that's where you are, you can feel a little intimidated by it. But especially with postpartum women, they're pretty like, you can pretty much do whatever you want. You're not really on a strict diet sometimes, but those are, the outlying things. So definitely can take advantage of that for sure. And then yes, having things prepped at home so it's just not something that you're coming home and stressing about. It just goes like such a long way.
Yes. So if somebody's given birth at home, they have access to this right away. Otherwise, you're getting home 1, 2, maybe 3 days afterwards, hopefully, right? With no setbacks. What should women have prepared? What should they reach for when they get home?
Definitely. Anything that you could make into a freezer meal, I'm a big fan of because we can have it in the freezer and pull it out. So soups are ones that I am a big advocate for because we can put so many nourishing things in them. If we do something like a high protein turkey lentil soup, so we're gonna have fiber in there with the lentils, we'll have protein with the turkey. We could have a bone broth base, which is gonna have, collagen, more protein. You can throw so many herbs in there, which can be supportive of healing, like ginger. Really, any herbs have anti-inflammatory properties, so anything that you like in that. And so those are things that I really like to see women prep is the, slow cooked meals, soups, things like that. Breakfast can be kind of a hard one for women sometimes. So trying to have some of that in the freezer too, or something that maybe someone brings to you, having like an egg bake is a really good idea. You can throw veggies in there, meat in there, all of that. I think sometimes women aren't vocal about their needs postpartum. So if someone's offering to bring you food, like tell them exactly what you want. Send them a recipe. Like be as, demanding as you want to be. And that's a really good way to be able to get some of these meals in a low effort way.
That is so smart. And I love the egg bake idea because breakfast is challenging. You wake up, and especially if you have other kids, you're tending to them, they're hungry, baby needs fed, you need fed. It's a kind of chaotic time. versus later in the day, you might find a pocket to be like, "Ooh, okay, I can prep dinner now, or I can prep lunch." So morning, that's a meal most people don't think about when bringing food to another family. A lot of times people bring dinner, which is wonderful, but breakfast, that's a really good idea.
It's a good one to bring, yes. Or I love bringing like a just snack bag to families too, because that's also really underrated. We have all these dinner meals that kind of get piled up, and having consistent food throughout the day is so important. So having a snack bag, like the meat sticks, the nuts and seeds, easy fruits, having those there can be really powerful as well.
Absolutely. Now, do you have recipes on your website or do you share recipes on your Instagram for people to seek out?
I have them in my online courses. I will start sharing them on Instagram more. That's something I did get better of. I'm one of those people that is not good at following recipes, so I'm always like throwing things together. But yes, I do share my meals on Instagram a lot, so at least people can get ideas of like what we're eating and how to build a meal. That's definitely something I talk about a lot.
Perfect. So go check out her page. I'll link everything in the show notes. And like she does, she have a course that you can access some of this stuff too. Now, Lindsay, what are the biggest myths or misconceptions that you hear about postpartum eating?
I love this question. One of the biggest myths, honestly, is that you need less food postpartum than you do when pregnant. And I think that comes from that you have to eat for two mentality, which we know like also isn't really the case. So then when you're postpartum, you automatically think, okay, I need to eat less. And we actually burn more calories breastfeeding than we do when we're pregnant. And so we need that nourishment. So that's a huge myth that I see. Another one is that your prenatal is only for pregnancy. Those same nutrients that support pregnancy are going to support you postpartum, not in just repleting your body from the event that you went through, but also in optimizing your breast milk. So definitely continuing that prenatal into postpartum is super important.
Yeah, I think it's misleading how they're called just prenatals, but a lot are highlighting now for before, during, and after pregnancy because we want those nutrients prior to conception, of course, all pregnancy, but then postpartum as well.
Exactly. So yeah, that was a really big one.
Yes. Now, when it comes to breastfeeding, what are some good foods to support milk supply?
Yeah, honestly, and I know it's not the most exciting thing, but really just making sure you're eating enough. And I talk about that a lot, but undernourishment can be one of the biggest tankers of breast milk supply. So making sure that we're having enough nutrition is super important. So that's the place to start, is really making sure that we're eating enough, listening to your body, listening to your hunger cues, not restricting our food, especially in those early, weeks and months postpartum. There are things, they're called galactagogues, that can increase our milk supply or help support our supply. We see that a lot in oats or fennel. Those can be things to add into the mix. But I'm definitely big on making sure that they're not the only things we're trying to eat, and just really that foundation of eating enough is going to be the thing that supports you the most.
Absolutely. And I can totally concur with what you were saying of actually eating more postpartum and not cutting back. Personally, I feel ravenous.
Oh, it's crazy.
Yes. Because during pregnancy, yes, you're nourishing baby in your womb, but baby's also taking up space. So you feel full really quickly, even though you're hungry. It's just this weird sensation. But once baby is born, you are making milk, and it's insane how hungry you feel. And you don't have baby taking up space, pressing on things, and making you feel satisfied before you're actually full.
Exactly. I feel like pregnancy is a lot of like the small frequent meals, and postpartum's like, okay, how much can I get in one sitting because I don't have time?
Absolutely. Now, you touched on this a little bit, but what are some of the most critical nutrients needed for tissue healing, hormone support, and replenishing blood loss during birth?
Yeah. So protein, again, is going to be just the most important. All those amino acids are the building blocks for our tissues. And so really getting in that protein, looking for greater than 100 grams a day at a minimum for women is going to be a really foundational place to start. When we look at hormone support, I like to look at really balanced blood sugar. So making sure that we're having a protein, a fat, and a carbohydrate kind of paired together when we're eating them, because that blood sugar support really transcends into this cascade of hormones that if we start there, it can be really foundational to help keep things balanced and a little happier. And then like we talked, those minerals are going to be just really important to help our stress response, replenish after birth. Hydration in general is going to be really important. And one thing I didn't mention too, just in those early days postpartum, is fiber. So we always forget about fiber, but we want to make sure we're getting as much fiber as we can to help those bowel movements and just things feel better down there too.
Yes. And from a pelvic health standpoint, I'm like, absolutely. Because constipation can be a huge issue post-delivery. And when you are straining, that can increase hemorrhoids. It can tug on scar tissue tearing. Like, it can be an awful experience for a lot of women. And that impacts your pelvic floor health.
Totally. And I think it's an experience that's feared too. Like, that first bowel movement postpartum, it can be really scary. So something, if you're kind of in the mindset of, I have been preparing for this, my body is ready for this, I have been having adequate fiber, it takes some of that fear away for sure, because it is something that gets a lot of hype, so it can be a little scary.
And if you know how to relax your pelvic floor, put your feet on a squatty potty so you're in an optimal position for emptying, you're just going to set yourself up for success across the board, and it won't be this scary experience of having a bowel movement right after giving birth. Now, what are your favorite fiber sources?
Yeah, fruits and veggies are obviously a great source for them. Your whole grains. I love chia seeds when we can throw those in as much as we can. They're like just an easy thing to put in smoothies or things like that to really boost that fiber source. Nuts and seeds are great too. So yeah, all of those are going to be just getting a well-rounded of all of them is great.
Yes. Now, my audience loves just actionable items, right? So practically speaking, let's go through a mama's day. So she wakes up. What is she starting with? Is she having something to drink? Is she going straight to food? Like, if we're to lay out an ideal day of nourishing and hydrating yourself in those first, 12 weeks postpartum, what does it look like?
I love that question. So yes, when you wake up in the morning, if we could start the day with some water, let's just start hydrated. Before you run for the coffee, let's just have a glass of water. I'm big on, if you can have decaf coffee, I know that can be really helpful. So kind of going for that instead of the caffeine, if you can, is a really good place to start, because caffeine can really increase our anxiety, especially when we're in a sensitive and vulnerable state postpartum. It's just the way it is. It shouldn't be looked at as a weakness. It's just how things are. So just trying to do things that are going to support you to not be so increase those levels of anxiety are important. So
sure.
Decaf coffee if you can. If you want to throw some collagen in there, it's not going to hurt anything. Just up the protein. And then here's where you could have a good serving of an egg bake. If someone's home and could cook for you, having like a 2 to 3 egg scramble with some ground meat in there and some veggies is also a really awesome idea. Maybe a side of fruit. So kind of starting there with breakfast can be a really powerful way to set your day up for success. If there's one meal that you put energy into, I truthfully feel breakfast should be that meal. And a high protein breakfast, I should say, should be that meal. Next, we want to be eating every 3 to 4 hours at a minimum. Obviously, if you're hungrier before that, please eat. But every 3 to 4 hours. So again, that first snack, make it easy. Maybe it's something like a perfect bar. Grab something in the fridge that you're able to eat quickly, kind of get you through the day. Lunch, that's where I would go for maybe that freezer meal, something that's easy, like a high protein turkey lentil soup that you can just throw in the microwave or heat it up on the stove. It's there. And if you have the time, that could be when you start prepping a little bit of your food for dinner. So that way, when dinner rolls around, especially in those early weeks postpartum, if you're going through like the witching hours and things like that, things are ready to go. So as much prep as you can do earlier in the day is going to be helpful, or even the day before. Again, the next 3 to 4 hours, you're ready for a snack. Maybe that's something like apple, cheese, and some pumpkin seeds. Those pumpkin seeds could be a source of magnesium. We're getting fiber in our apple, some protein and fat in the cheese. Keep it simple, pairing the protein, fiber, carb, fat, pairing it all together. Dinner rolls around. Salmon is an underrated meal because it cooks so quickly. We can cook, salmon in 20, 30 minutes in the oven. So again, if that's something that someone could bring you, even better. But if not, it's something that you could have prepped at lunch or thrown together really simply with then maybe some potatoes and veggies on the side. Then 3 to 4 hours again, we're looking at kind of like an after dinner snack. Honestly, eat before bed. You need the nourishment. You just need it. So doing something like even dark chocolate and pistachios, again, a little magnesium in the dark chocolate, some fat and protein in the pistachios, can be a nice little dessert while also providing nourishment for your body. And then throughout the day, lots of water, mineral-rich drinks if we can. Coconut water is a great one. Electrolyte packets, LMNT, I love those. Jigsaw Health also has some good ones. So just sipping on those throughout the day is going to be helpful. And then you can also gauge where is your hunger and fullness at? If you have a meal and then you're hungry within an hour, we can use that as data to say, okay, I didn't eat enough. Did I not have enough protein? What am I hungry for? Am I craving carbs? Okay, maybe that wasn't a balanced meal and I needed to have some more carbohydrates at that time. So we can use our cravings, our hunger and fullness to really look back at the day and say, okay, what worked? What didn't work? How can I make this better tomorrow? Where can I ask for help? Things like that.
I loved that. So I am pregnant with my 4th child.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I was literally picturing myself in the postpartum days with this sweet little newborn and 3 other children at home with me and this day unfolding. And that is honestly so doable. The early days postpartum, I think, are extrapolated to be so hard. And in a way, they are because of lack of sleep and your healing and all of this. But baby sleeps so much. And if I could do anything for my first time mom self, I would tell her wear your baby and prep your food because you are going to feel so much better when you are well nourished.
It's crazy. Yes. You will feel so much better. And yes, the wear your baby, just put them on your chest, let them take your naps there. You will feel better. It's the hormone connection too. Yeah. And you can get things done. You can. It's tricky. And I think something, and I love that you focus on this in your practice, but preparing even before you're pregnant is just the best thing someone can do. Because if you can kind of get in this way of eating prior to pregnancy, while you're pregnant, it just transcends into this postpartum experience being this is kind of just what I do. I'm comfortable doing this. I can do this. And so really that preparation before is just, crazy important. And if you don't, and you're listening to this and I'm postpartum and I, don't eat that way, that's okay too. Mm-hmm. And you can get into the habit. You can help yourself. I know I'm big on helping my clients, intuitive eating is my goal for clients. And, this being second nature, but not everyone can always start there. And so if you need to set an alarm for every 3 hours to be oh, maybe I should have a snack right now. Where's my hunger and fullness at? And approaching all of this with just genuine curiosity, not shame, not any of that. Just am I hungry? Am I not hungry? I wonder why. And just having fun with it really goes a long way in how we can view food and it be supportive instead of just oh my gosh, I have to eat and I hate this and all of that.
Yes. And how does my body feel after that meal? My goodness, I felt so nourished after that bowl of soup and I was full for 3 hours versus making a raw salad with raw veggies and you're hungry an hour later and you feel on edge because your body wasn't nourished. And that's just a perfect plan for how nutrition does impact our mental health.
Yes. I love how you brought up the raw salad because I also feel listening to our cravings is so important. And I don't know, personally, I did not crave a salad postpartum. I'm 14 months postpartum right now, and I'm pretty much just now like being like, like a salad kind of sounds good, because it's not the most, like, we need easy, quick, nourishing things. And it's like hard on the body to digest, this raw food salad that really isn't like the quickest of nutrients. And so it goes such a long way to just like tune into yourself. Be like, what does this mean?
Right. I love that. And if you have other children at home, including them in the kitchen. And that can be a connection point with your preschooler, your toddler.
Yes.
Who are adjusting to having a new child at home. And so it can be something fun that you do together of let's prepare some energy balls or lactation cookies or things like that are fun for them to be a part of.
Yes, definitely. And it makes them excited about things too.
Yes. So we talked a little bit about mental health. Now, what are some early nutritional red flags that may contribute to low energy, mood swings, or just feeling mentally off in postpartum?
So one of the big ones is like skipping breakfast, kind of like we talked about. If you're going on this night where, especially in those early days, you're waking up every 2 hours and, sleep is just chaotic, and then you enter the day unnourished, it's going to set you up for a blood sugar roller coaster of a day, which means that your anxiety might be higher that day. So really trying to get that breakfast in is going to be huge. Another one is going to be like having too much caffeine, kind of like we talked about. That really can trigger some of those symptoms and be a red flag of like, okay, if you feel like you have to be running on caffeine right now, instead of doing that, let's really look internally, ask for help, be like, I need to lay down, things like that. Get those mineral rich drinks in. If you're grabbing that afternoon cup of coffee, think, okay, have I eaten? Maybe I should have a snack instead. And that's where my energy is going to come from. So that can be a big one. And that takes a lot of accountability too, to look at yourself and be like, okay, this isn't nourishing me. Like, this isn't right. I need to take a step back here. And then all encompassing that is just the low energy availability of not eating enough is going to be a red flag for kind of just that foundation of not setting it properly.
I love that. Are there any specific foods or nutrients that you do recommend for mood and nervous system support?
Yeah, so those omega-3 fats go a really long way in kind of an anti-inflammatory effect in the body, which can transcend into reducing those feelings of anxiety and depression that some of us get postpartum. So again, that's something like in the fish, like that salmon for dinner is going to be a really good way to get those. Fish and seafood is going to be the most bioavailable form of those fats. We can get them from things like nuts and seeds, olive oil, other areas. So having a mix is obviously great, but really prioritizing the most bioavailable forms is going to help the body just not have to work so hard. And we don't want to make our body work harder than it has to. Magnesium is also one that's been really shown to help support mood and energy. So again, things like the avocado, dark chocolate, our seafood has magnesium too, nuts and seeds. Even a supplement is fine postpartum too, if you're really trying to just like up it and kind of be on top of things. I always like a food first approach, but there are things that we can, support in ways that are not crazy over supplementing.
Right.
And protein, again, is going to really help that blood sugar response. So again, a protein-rich diet is going to be supportive in that area. And then another one, I know you're a fan of Full Well. They have a supplement, the Nourish Nerves. I love that supplement. I think it's a great one that you can kind of just throw into your routine to help that stress response. So that can be an area too, to just throw in there and, have it help.
I love that. And for my most recent postpartum, because I'm almost 17 months postpartum, and now I'm transitioning to like, I'm pregnant again. So it's this funny in between of where I'm like, okay, wrap up the kind of postpartum time and jump into the prenatal care, which they all segue very nicely together. But my last postpartum, I did focus on some of those herbal tinctures, such as Nourishing Nerves, just to be proactive. I had 3 children. I knew my attention was pulled in more ways, and sometimes that can be harder to make sure you are getting perfectly balanced meals every single time, right? So having some things on hand to grab when you know it has been a day where you potentially haven't nourished as well as you ideally would have is really practical.
Exactly. It's such a good way. And I love how you just mentioned that, you can be in preconception and postpartum at the same time. And I think that's a really important thing to think about, that, preconception isn't just from the first. In postpartum, you go through these different periods. And so I love that you mentioned that, because it's really interesting how they all transcend.
It really is. So what are some other favorite supplements to have on hand? You mentioned the Nourishing Nerves from Fullwell. What else?
I love, obviously, the Fullwell prenatal, so continuing that postpartum. Magnesium, I like Jigsaw Health. Have used them for a while, so that having on hand is really nice too before bed, just to help calm. And then a collagen supplement can go a really long way too, it's, pretty harmless, safe, and just adds this extra protein into the diet, which is always going to be a positive thing. And then we could also look at the omega-3s. So having like a high quality fish oil, again, Fullwell has that. So a high quality fish oil in there too is just really important for, maybe you're not a big fish eater and you're like, I'm not going to cook salmon. That's not going to happen. Then yes, go for the supplement. That's going to be great and supportive also.
Exactly. And that's what I tell my patients too. It's like, if you're not getting salmon or a similar fish in your diet 2 to 3 or 3 to 4 times a week, then let's reach for a fish oil supplement. Same thing. What are your thoughts on organ meats and incorporating those into the diet and then supplementing if you're not?
I like incorporating, yeah, exactly what you said. Incorporating them, and then if you're not, a supplement is, totally fine. I love incorporating them when we can. I just think it's so powerful to be eating these whole food forms of things. And postpartum, when we're making some of these meals, it's really easy to sneak them in. So, going to your local butcher, they normally have the organ meats there. You can ask for them. Like, it's easy to obtain them. And then, grinding them up and sneaking them into the soup or like a meatloaf or things like that is super easy.
Mm-hmm. And that is how I had been preparing, where I had bought the liver or the heart separately, and then I was grinding it up and mixing it in and with my ground beef. And I recently realized that if you are buying like wholesale from a farmer, like you're getting a quarter of a cow or half of a cow, you can ask them to grind the organ meat in with the ground meat, so that when you pull a package of ground meat out of the freezer, it's already have the organ meats ground into it.
So smart. We do that too. Like, we get half a cow at a time and
Awesome.
stuff. And I've never thought to ask them to just grind it together. That's amazing.
Yes, same. And a friend of mine, they live on a farm, and she was like, just so you know, you can do this. And I said, no way.
That is so awesome.
Yeah. So a quick, easy hack. And I'm like, this literally is saving me so much time and prep because it's already in there.
Yes, it's crazy. And yeah, it's a lot to pull out the grinder and do it and all of that. So that's amazing.
Yeah, especially when they're both frozen, then you have to wait for the organ meat to thaw to be able to grind it. And it's a whole thing.
Totally.
So what is a message you want every woman to hear as we kind of wrap things up here about food and postpartum recovery?
Yeah, I honestly just want every woman to know that you are worthy postpartum of nourishing yourself. And I think that's something that, we feel like we can't ask for things postpartum just because of the chaos of it all. And you are worthy of being nourished, and food is one of the best ways that you can do that. So speak your mind, ask for help, and really prioritize that food postpartum, because it truly makes such a difference.
You are worthy of being nourished. That is beautiful.
Thank you.
And it is so true. And again, to just pull it back to where there's so much attention on the baby's needs postpartum, if you don't nourish yourself, you are not going to be able to optimally show up for that baby. And your baby feeds off of your nervous system. So if you are on edge because you're not eating enough, you have low energy and are having a hard time being present with your little one because of low energy availability, again, you're not eating enough, it's going to make this postpartum time so much harder. And it truly can be one of the most beautiful times of your life.
It can. Yes. And I think I just had another thought when you were saying that. It's something too, in just the way that we look at things. We look at baby and mom so separate. And so, we expect or recommend for baby to be supplemented with vitamin D postpartum. But studies do show that if mom takes a supplement of 6,500 international units of vitamin D, then baby gets the adequate amount. So if we can start looking at mom and baby as this synergistic unit, and it starts with the nourishment of mom, it's such a powerful way to flip that script postpartum.
And it's so much easier.
So much easier. Yes.
With my first, our pediatrician was like, use this oil and put it on your finger and have the baby lick it off. And I would forget all the time.
Totally. Yeah.
And then when I looked at my own nourishment, I'm like, oh, I can just supplement with vitamin D myself. I'm getting the benefits. And then baby gets the benefits from my breast milk. And it was this amazing light bulb moment. And then baby got the vitamin D every day. And it wasn't this extra step.
Yes. And mom's being replenished and not just totally depleted. Yes.
And
so I'll add vitamin D to the supplement list too. Forgot about that.
I'm so glad you brought that up because that's such a great point that just isn't talked about a lot.
No, totally. Yes.
Well, Lindsay, this conversation was amazing. If people want to learn more from you about postpartum nutrition, where can they find you and what resources do you have?
Yes. So on Instagram, dietitian Lindsay with an underscore at the end. You can kind of check out the links in my bio. I have a newsletter you can sign up for and get some resources there. And then I also do offer a self-paced course called the Women's Wellness Collective. And that is something that I really look at from preconception to postpartum, basically what we were talking about. It's this time where we are transcending, so we want to be able to have all of those resources together in one place. It's just a series of webinars and written lessons, printable resources that are just there for you when you need them.
And are there specific recipes in there too?
Yes, there's meal planning guides in there, recipes in there. Yes.
Wonderful. Because I feel like that pairs so nicely. And this is where you and I connected with my Holistically Well programs, where it's giving you that physical aspect of preparing your body before, during, and after pregnancy, and the holistic health side of things. But bringing in the recipes, I think, is so foundational, and just all things you can access from home exactly when and where you need it. So I will put the links to all of Lindsay's resources and my resource in the show notes. That way you have easy access to them. And there's no reason to not take care of you postpartum, mama. So I hope today's conversation shed light on all the resources that are available for you, and that food can be part of your healing. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend who is currently pregnant or newly postpartum, because they need this information. And this is how we are going to help the next generation of mamas heal and replenish our bodies postpartum, is by not gatekeeping, by sharing this information with exactly who needs to hear it. So thank you for tuning in.